Level 1. The mattress on the floor. You sleep on a mattress on the floor, and there is no frame. And you tell people it's a choice. It isn't a choice. A frame is $90. And $90 is the phone bill, and the mattress works fine without one. And you have said this sentence about how you actually prefer it low so many times that you've almost convinced yourself. Nobody has ever asked a follow-up question. That's the thing about the lie. It's small enough that nobody bothers to check it. Next to the mattress is a cardboard box with a lamp on it. The box came with something you bought 2 years ago, and you kept it because it was the right height. And at some point it stopped being temporary without anyone declaring it permanent. You are renting a room in someone else's apartment. Not an apartment, a room. Your name is not on anything. There's a man whose name is on the lease, and you pay him, and he pays the person whose name is on the building. And you have never met that second person, and you never will. You are 2 removes from the wall you sleep next to. You learn to move through the place quietly. You learn the sound of the front door and what it means about how long you have the kitchen. You've become very good at estimating whether the bathroom is free based on footsteps, and you don't think of this as a skill, but it is one, and it's the specific skill of a person who does not control the space they live in. Here's what your rent actually is, and you've never run this number, so run it now. $900 a month. $10,800 a year. You've been in rooms like this for 6 years. $64,000. You have paid $64,000 to sleep on a mattress on a floor, and every dollar of it went to somebody, and none of it went to you. You do not own 1 square inch of anything. If you stopped paying tomorrow, 6 years of payments would purchase you exactly nothing, no equity, no claim, no residue, and you'd be on the street with the mattress. This is the part where the shame usually arrives, so let's take it apart before it gets settled. You think the mattress on the floor means you haven't started your life yet. It doesn't. It means every dollar you earn is going to the person who owns the walls, and there is nothing left over to start a life with. And those are 2 completely different sentences that feel identical from the inside. You are not behind because you failed to buy a bed frame. You are behind because shelter costs 1/3 of everything you make, and the price of shelter is set by people who already own it. Then, on a Tuesday, the man whose name is on the lease tells you he's moving out in 6 weeks. That's it. That's the whole conversation. He's apologetic, and it's not personal, and he has his own reasons, and none of that matters, because your housing just ended in a 40-second conversation you had no part in. You have 6 weeks to find a room. You will pay a deposit you don't have, to a person you don't know, for a floor you also won't own. You carry the mattress down 3 flights yourself. It bends in the middle and catches on the railing, and you fight with it in a stairwell for 11 minutes. And there's a moment on the second landing where you just stop and hold it and breathe. You don't have a home at the mattress on the floor. You have an arrangement, and somebody else decides when it ends. Level 2. Your name on a lease. It takes 2 years and a better job, and it is the worst apartment you have ever seen. The radiator makes a sound like someone hitting a pipe with a wrench, on a schedule nobody can predict. There's a window that doesn't close all the way, and in January you put a towel there. The kitchen floor slopes enough that a dropped orange goes to the same corner every time. And when you sign the lease, your hand shakes a little. Because it's your name, not the name of a man who is subletting to you. Yours, on a document, in a box, with a landlord on the other side who now has an obligation to you that is written down somewhere. You get a key that nobody else has. That's the whole level, and it's worth more than the apartment. You close the door, and it's your door for 12 months, and nobody can end this in a 40-second conversation. And you sit on the mattress, which is still on the floor, because a frame is still $90, and you just paid first, last, and a deposit. You sleep well for the first time in years. Not because the apartment is good. It is not good. You sleep well because nobody is going to walk past your room at 2 in the morning. The first night you don't unpack. You sit on the mattress in the middle of an empty room with a bag of food and eat standing at the counter. And then you go around and turn on every light in the apartment, all of them at once, for no reason, just to see the place lit up. Then you turn them off and you go back and you lock the door and you check it and you unlock it and lock it again. Because you have never in your adult life locked a door that only you had the key to. Then, about 4 months in, you notice that you've stopped listening. For 6 years you were listening. Footsteps, the front door, the shower, running the constant background calculation about whether you could use the kitchen. You didn't know you were doing it. You only find out you stopped when you catch yourself walking into your own kitchen at 11 at night without checking anything, and you stand there with the fridge open, and it hits you sideways. That is the first thing this climb gives you back, and it is not financial. It's the ability to stop monitoring your own house. You do the math again, because you've started doing the math now, and the math is worse. $1,200 a month. $14,400 a year. Better apartment, higher rent, same structure. Every dollar still leaves and never comes back. The lease is a real thing, and it protects you for 12 months, and at the end of the 12 months it protects you from nothing at all. You start noticing the building itself. Who owns it? Whether the man who takes your check is that person or a person who works for that person. You find out it's a company, and the company owns 14 buildings, and somewhere in that structure there's a human being whose income is partially your Friday. You don't resent him, exactly. You just realize, for the first time, that he exists and that you're standing in his asset. You buy the bed frame. It's $90 and it takes 40 minutes to assemble, and you sit on the floor with the instructions and an Allen key that came in the box. The mattress comes off the floor for the first time in 8 years. You don't have property at your name on a lease. You have a door that only you can open for 12 months at a time. Level 3. The letter under the door. It comes in March and it's 1 page. The rent is going up $240 a month. You read it standing in the hallway. You read it again sitting down. There's a paragraph about market conditions and a paragraph about improvements to the property, and you look around at a radiator that still bangs and a window that still needs a towel, and you understand that the paragraph about improvements is not about your apartment. $240 a month is $2,880 a year. Here is the thing you learn at this level, and it is the most important thing in the entire climb, so sit with it. You have no countermove. Not a bad one. None. There is no negotiation available to you. No argument. No leverage. No version of this conversation where you say something clever and the number changes. You can pay it or you can leave. Those are the 2 doors, and both of them were selected for you by someone who did not think about you specifically while selecting them. You call. You are polite. The person on the phone is also polite and reads from a screen and tells you the increase is standard for the building, and asks if there's anything else, and there is not. You do the arithmetic that night, and this is where the level turns. Your rent went up $240 because the building became more valuable. The building became more valuable, and someone captured that value. And the person who captured it is not you, and the person who paid for it is. You have spent 8 years making other people's assets more valuable by living in them and paying for the privilege. That's not a metaphor. That's the mechanism. Your rent is the return on someone else's investment. Every month you have ever paid was somebody's yield. You've been on the wrong side of the same transaction for 8 years, and you never once saw the shape of it because you were looking at your bank account instead of the building. The rage that arrives here is useful and you should keep it, but you have to point it correctly. The man who owns the building is not evil. He bought a thing that goes up. That's all. He is doing the completely ordinary thing that everyone with capital does, and the reason he can do it and you cannot is not that he's smarter than you. It's that at some point he had a down payment and you have never had one, and everything else follows from that single fork. You decide something in the hallway with the letter in your hand, and it's not a good decision yet. It's just a decision. You are going to be on the other side of this transaction, not to punish anyone, because you have now seen, in writing on 1 page, exactly how the money moves, and you have been standing in the wrong place your entire adult life. You pay the increase. You have no choice. You also open a separate account that night with $40 in it. And the account has a name that you type in yourself, and the name is the address of a building that doesn't exist yet. You don't have an apartment at the letter under the door. You have a diagram of how it works and a place to stand that isn't where you're standing. Level 4. The first move you chose. 2 years later you move, and nobody made you. That's the entire level, and it sounds small. It is not small. Every previous move in your life was a move you were forced into. A lease ending. A rent increase you couldn't absorb. A man in a kitchen telling you he was leaving in 6 weeks. 11 moves in 12 years, and not one of them was your idea. This one is your idea. You found a better place for slightly more, and you can absorb the slightly more, and you gave notice on a Tuesday like a person with options. You put it in writing. You were polite. You didn't explain yourself, and afterward you noticed that you had prepared an explanation and didn't need it. The savings account with the building's name on it has $11,000 in it. $11,000 took 3 years, and it took every one of them. It went up and got knocked down twice, and you restarted it twice without ceremony, and it is nowhere near a down payment. And it is the first $11,000 you have ever had. Here's what it actually bought you, and it isn't a house. You stopped being someone who could be moved. At the Mattress, a 40-second conversation could relocate your entire life. At $11,000, a rent increase is an annoyance. A bad landlord is a thing you leave. A lease ending is a calendar item instead of a crisis. Nobody can push you anymore because you have somewhere to fall. The move itself takes a day. You hire 2 guys with a truck instead of doing it yourself with a bent mattress and a stairwell, and it costs $300, and you stand on the sidewalk while other people carry your things. That is one of the strangest feelings of your adult life. Standing on a sidewalk, not carrying anything. $300 is a lot of money, and you are watching it purchase the absence of a specific humiliation you have experienced 11 times. The new place has a bedroom with a real window. The frame you bought goes back together in the new room, and the mattress goes on it. And it occurs to you that you have moved this mattress through 6 addresses. You keep it, not for sentiment, because a new mattress is $800 and $800 is 2 months of the building account. And you have gotten very good at seeing every purchase as a distance from the thing you're actually buying. You start looking at listings. Not seriously. You look the way a person looks at a country they can't afford to visit. You learn what a down payment is in your city, and the number is so large that you close the app. Then you do something that changes the timeline. You find out what the number actually is for a small place, in a bad part of town, that needs work. It's smaller than you thought. Not small. Smaller. It's 4 years away instead of never. For years is a thing a person can do. Never is not. You don't have security at the first move you chose. You have the ability to leave, which is the only thing that has ever made anyone safe in a house they don't own. Level 5. The down payment. For years become 5, because it always does. The account has $38,000 in it. It took 8 years total from the night in the hallway with the letter, and during those 8 years you did nothing anyone would make a video about. You lived below what you earned in a way that was boring and slightly lonely and completely invisible. Nobody knew. That's the part that grinds. There is no artifact for this. A man who spends 8 years buying things has a house full of evidence. You have an account balance nobody has ever seen and a mattress you've had for 14 years. Now you apply for the mortgage, and the level really begins. You sit in an office and hand over your life and documents. 2 years of tax returns, pay stubs, bank statements going back months, every line of which you know they will read. And you find yourself embarrassed by ordinary purchases in the way a person is embarrassed by their own diary. They run your credit, and you watch a face change on the other side of a desk. Not dramatically. It's not cruel. But there's a recalculation that happens behind the eyes, the same one you have seen at a bank counter your entire life, where you stop being a person and become a category, a risk score with shoes. Everything about your file says the same thing. Thin history, no property, years of rental payments that count for nothing. Because paying $1,200 a month on time for 11 years is not evidence you can pay $1,100 a month on time for a mortgage. It's not on the form. There's no box for it. That's the insult at the center of this entire system, and you feel it in your chest when he explains it. You have proven you can pay for shelter every single month for over a decade. That proof is worthless here. The only thing that counts is whether you have previously been given money, and you never have, because nobody gives money to people who don't have it. And you're standing inside the loop, and there is no exit except the $38,000 you carried here by hand. They approve you, barely, at a rate that is not good, because your file says risk, because your file has never said anything else. The rate is 1.5 points higher than the rate a man with a wealthy father would receive for the identical loan on the identical building. Over 30 years, that difference is more than $50,000. You will pay $50,000 extra for the crime of not having had money earlier. That's the actual pricing. Nobody says it out loud, and nobody in that office is being unkind to you. And it is simply what it costs to arrive from where you arrived from. You sign anyway. You sign because the alternative is another 11 years of making someone else's asset more valuable, and because $50,000 over 30 years is less than what you'll spend in rent over 10. You don't have a house at the down payment. You have a receipt for how much it costs to start from nothing, itemized, and you paid it. Level 6. The keys. The place is not good. It's a small 2-unit building in a neighborhood people apologize about, and the second unit is empty and has been for a while, and there's a reason the price was what it was. The roof has maybe 6 years in it. The wiring is old enough to have opinions. You get the keys in a parking lot outside an office. There's no ceremony. Someone hands you an envelope and shakes your hand and gets into their car. You drive over. You open your own door with your own key to your own walls. And you stand in an empty room and you wait for the feeling, and it doesn't come. Nothing arrives. 14 years from a mattress on a floor in somebody else's apartment to the deed of a building, and you're standing in a room that smells like other people's paint, and you feel nothing at all. You sleep there that night with no furniture. The room has a sound to it that you don't recognize, because every room you have ever slept in had somebody else's footsteps somewhere above or beside it. And this one just has weather. At about 2 in the morning, you get up and walk through the whole building. Both units. The basement with its pipes. The little strip of concrete out back that is somehow also yours. You are not inspecting anything. You are doing the thing a person does when the fact hasn't landed yet, and they're trying to walk it into their body. Then, 3 weeks later, the furnace dies. It dies on a Sunday in November, and you call somebody. And the somebody says $2,200, and you say okay, and you hang up. And you sit down on the floor of a house you own with no heat in it. This is the part nobody puts in the story. At the mattress, when the heat died, you sent a text to a man and it was his problem. It was a bad text to have to send, and he was slow, and you were cold for 4 days, and you resented him. But it was his $2,200. There is nobody to text now. You are the man. The text arrives at you. It will arrive at you for the rest of your life. For the roof and the wiring and the water heater, and things you don't know the names of yet. You have not escaped the cost of shelter. You have transferred it from a monthly payment you couldn't control into a series of unpredictable payments you also can't control, and anyone who tells you ownership is simply cheaper has never had a Sunday in November. So what did you actually buy then? Sit with that, because the answer is the whole video. 2 things. The first is that every payment now leaves a residue. $1,100 leaves your account, and some of it becomes yours in a way that rent never did. Slowly. Insultingly slowly at first, because in the early years almost all of it is interest. But it accumulates, and in 11 years it will be a real number, and if you leave you take it with you. The second is the one that matters more. Nobody can send you a letter. There is no march. There is no page under the door. Nobody can decide, in an office you'll never see, that your housing is now $240 more expensive because there is no longer a person on the other side of that transaction. You removed him. He no longer exists in your life. You spent 14 years buying the removal of a specific man's ability to move you, and it cost $38,000 and a furnace, and it was worth it. You put the mattress in the bedroom, on the frame you bought 11 years ago. You don't have wealth at the keys. You have a building with a bad roof and nobody who can send you a letter about it. Level 7. The first tenant. You fixed the second unit over 14 months, mostly yourself, badly at first, and then less badly. You learn things by ruining them. There's a wall in that unit with a patch you can see if you know where to look, and you always know where to look. Every hour you spend in there after work is an hour that costs you nothing and adds something, which is the first time in your life that equation has ever been available to you. Then you list it. And people come to look at it, and you sit across from strangers who want to live in a room you own, and you have to decide. The third one is a kid, 24 maybe, nervous in a way you recognize immediately because you have been exactly that nervous in exactly that chair. He asks a question during the walkthrough that gives him away completely. He asks whether it's okay that he doesn't have much furniture yet. He asks it carefully, the way you ask a question you've already decided is going to disqualify you. And he watches your face while you answer, and you know that look from the inside because you have worn it in a bank and in a leasing office. And in a kitchen where a man told you he was moving out in 6 weeks. His application is bad. Thin history, no property, a job that hasn't been his for very long. He has never been given money, so there's no evidence anyone should give him any, and every box on the form that could hurt him hurts him. You know what that file is. You have been that file. You sat in an office 11 years ago and watched a man's face recalculate while reading a version of this exact page. And here is where you find out who you are, because now you're holding the pen. There's a spreadsheet answer. The spreadsheet says take the safer applicant, the one with the history, the one whose file says yes. That's not cruelty, it's arithmetic. And if you lose 4 months of rent on a bad bet, you will feel it in a way that a man with 14 buildings would not. You rent it to the kid, not out of sentiment. You rent it to him because you know something the form doesn't, which is that a person who has been paying rent on time for 6 years while sleeping on a floor is not a risk. He's just a person nobody has ever written anything down about. He moves in on a Saturday. You watch him carry his things up, and he's got 2 friends helping. And at the end of it, they bring up a mattress, and it bends in the middle and catches on the railing. There's no frame. You stand at the bottom of your own stairwell and watch a version of yourself carry a mattress into a room that belongs to you. And you have to go inside and sit down for a minute. Because now you understand the entire arrangement from both ends at once, and it's not a clean feeling. He's going to pay you $900 a month. That money will pay down your mortgage. In 11 years, the building will be worth more. And the reason it's worth more will partly be him, living in it, paying for it, and none of that value will be his. You are on the other side of the transaction you drew a diagram of in a hallway 11 years ago. You don't have a business at the first tenant. You have a full view of the machine and a position in it you spent 14 years earning and cannot now pretend not to occupy. Level 8. The building. 9 years later, you own the whole thing on the corner. 11 units. It happened the way these things happen, which is slowly and then in a lump. The 2-unit paid for itself and then paid for the next one, and the next one was easier. Because by then someone would lend to you, because now you had a history, because the only thing anyone has ever wanted to see is evidence that you already have what you're asking for. The rates you get now are better than the rate you got on your first place, and you have more money than you did then, which is the joke at the center of the entire system, and you stopped finding it funny a long time ago. You have an office. It's small, and it's above a laundromat, and it has a desk with paper on it. And in March, your property manager brings you a page. Market rents in the area have moved. The building is worth more than it was. There's a version of this year where every unit goes up $240, and the numbers are right there, and they are not wrong, and doing it would be completely ordinary. Everyone in the neighborhood is doing it. Nobody would ever say a word to you about it. You sit with the page for a long time, because you know exactly what that page is. You held it once, standing in a hallway, and you read it twice, and there was a paragraph about market conditions and a paragraph about improvements to a property that did not include your apartment. You remember what your hands did. 11 of those pages would go under 11 doors. Some of those people would pay it. Some of them would move, and moving is a bent mattress in a stairwell, and a deposit they don't have, and a room in someone else's apartment where you listen for footsteps to know if the kitchen is free. Here's the thing nobody tells you about arriving. You don't get to be innocent at the top. The position you spent 23 years climbing into is a position with power in it, and power is not a reward you receive, it's a set of decisions you now have to make. The man who sent you the letter was not a monster. He was a man in an office with a page and a spreadsheet answer, and he took it, because taking it is easy and normal, and everyone does it. You raise them, but not by that. You take a smaller number, which costs you real money that you can count. And you do the units on staggered timelines so nobody eats it all at once. And the kid from the first building, who is 34 now and has been paying you on time for a decade, you leave alone entirely. It's not heroism. You're not pretending it is. You're a landlord, and the arrangement is the arrangement, and you are on the profitable end of it, and no amount of decency changes the shape of the machine. But you were handed a page, and you had to decide what kind of man holds it, and you decided. You walk the building on a Sunday. Second floor, back unit. The door is open because someone is moving in. There's a mattress on the floor. There's a cardboard box next to it with a lamp on it. Someone has already decided the box is the right height. You keep walking. You don't say anything, because there's nothing to say that wouldn't be about you. Somewhere in your city tonight, a person is lying on a mattress on a floor, listening to footsteps, doing the arithmetic about whether the kitchen is free, telling themselves they prefer it low. They think the floor is a fact about their character. It isn't. It's a fact about where the money goes. Every dollar they earn is buying a month of somewhere to sleep and buying nothing else, and it will keep doing that forever. Until the day they see the diagram, and the diagram is not complicated, and nobody ever draws it for them. You are the same person you were on that floor. The only thing that changed is which side of the wall your name is on. And that took 23 years, and it was available the whole time, and nobody told you either.